We'd like to welcome everyone back to the Nova Society. And today, Scott and I conclude our conversation as we talk about primaries, caucuses, debates, and we make our predictions for 2024. So let's listen in.
Speaking of Fox, I guess I won't call it Fox News, Fox Infotainment.
Infotainment, yes.
There's a debate coming up, and apparently, instead of going to the debate, Trump is being interviewed by Fox because the debate is on CNN or something like that. I forget what
the one in Iowa.
Yep. Right. And that Martha Coakley, I think it is, and Brett Baer are going to be interviewing Trump. Do you think that they're going to ask him tough questions and push back on his BS? I've seen her interviewed, and she does good interviews.
Well, then, I was actually watching something that was talking about the two of them, Martha and Brett Baer, and they said they're legitimate journalists. They were saying that they were legitimate journalists. And the fact that Fox paid out so much money to Dominion may be one of the reasons why they selected these two to ask to be the moderators for this thing with Trump. So I guess it's something to be seen. Maybe we'll see a change in Fox's philosophy. I don't know. Brett Baer has occasionally come out and said, "Listen, I can't do this." I mean, I've seen clips of him where he basically pushed back, but I've also seen clips of him where he's gone down the rabbit hole. So everything that and this isn't Fox people saying that these are legitimate journalists. This is other people from other outlets saying that they are legitimate journalists. So hopefully they'll go back to their roots, be legitimate journalists, ask the tough questions, because really Trump avoids the debates simply because he doesn't have to answer the tough questions. And I truly believe in my heart that I'm kind of surprised he's not going to Iowa, because Chris Christie did not make the debate stage. He doesn't have whatever it took to get on the debate stage in Iowa. Although Christie did say today he hasn't put a dime into Iowa. He hasn't even stepped foot in Iowa, so he didn't care. I'm kind of surprised Trump isn't going to that debate with Nikki Haley, and the only two that's going to be there is Haley and DeSantis, and they're not going to push back too hard on him. They're not going to ask him the tough questions. They're not going to do any of that. So that kind of surprised me a little, because that would be a lot easier. I truly do believe that Trump's afraid to get on the debate stage with Christie, because I really think then Christie's ability as a prosecutor comes out. And whether it helps him or hurts him, I don't even think he cares at this point in time. But I think he would probably eat Trump's lunch, because I think he's been waiting 8 years to do it. He didn't do it back in 2016, so he's waiting. He's primed to do it now.
Yeah. Again, you and I differ on Chris Christie. He's an opportunist who's going to stay in the race, even though he could probably help Nikki Haley win in New Hampshire by giving her, by dropping out. He's not going to do that. I guess his philosophy is that if Trump beats Nikki Haley in South Carolina, she's done, and that leaves only him and DeSantis. And he's gonna wait and see what happens, and be opportunistic about it, in case Trump ends up in so much trouble that that voters turn away from him, and he's going to hang around until then, hoping for that to happen. I don't know.
Well, and again, I don't think we disagree on Christie. Because I remember when he was the governor of New Jersey. I'm not a great Christie fan. I think that if you listen to some of his town halls that he has, he is being as direct opposite of Trump as there is. He did make a statement. He goes, and he made it day before yesterday. If Nikki Haley attacked Trump the way he did, he would consider dropping out.
Well,
but
maybe
because
yeah,
she isn't, I mean, she's the one that came out and said, I'll pardon him.
right.
If I'll pardon him. Christie believes that she is really running for vice president. That's what he sees it as. And his comment is if she was more like him in going after Trump, then he would consider dropping out of the race. But because she is not doing that, um, one of the things he said, and some of the things he says does make sense. DeSantis and Haley are running this as if it's a two-person race. Those two, they're forgetting the third person. Forget Christie. They're forgetting Trump. If they want to beat Trump, they have to go after him, and they're not doing it. So again, I think if maybe that's the formula right there. I don't think what happened with the question with the Civil War helped her at all, but it showed who exactly she is, as you said earlier. It showed you what you're getting, and if one of the things again, if you're afraid to offend the people in South Carolina by saying, yes, it was all about slavery, especially when in South Carolina's declaration to leave the Union, one of the first lines talks about the idea that they want to keep slavery. If you can't say that slavery was the issue, how are you going to stand up to the other world leaders if you're trying not to offend anybody? You've got to be willing to offend some people. You can't please everyone. Let's remember, if you get elected by 51% of the vote, 49% of the vote voted against you anyway and didn't want your ass in there anyway. So, you can't have it. You can't make everybody happy. And I think that's what the point that Christie's making, and I think it's a correct point.
You made an interesting point earlier that Trump should go to Iowa because he's not going to get attacked, right? Without Christie being there, those two aren't going to attack him. That's an interesting point. I guess if I was running Trump's campaign, I would say, nah, don't go anyway, because you don't have to. You're already killing it, and there's no reason to go. And Christie understood that, I think, as far as Iowa is concerned, and that's why he just never decided to compete there. But it's an interesting idea that you might as well go where nobody's gonna lay a glove on you. What Nikki Haley needs now is a sister soldier moment, right? He needs that where he turns against where she turns against her, some of her supporters, and challenges them in a way that Bill Clinton did. I think it was Bill Clinton with Sister Soldier back in '92, and that she needs that kind of thing where she turns it around and shows a little bravery, shows that she can be tough, and there's probably no better time to do it than at this debate.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the interesting things about Iowa is that it's a caucus, which means that Trump bullies are going to have the ability to actually say to people, no, you sit over there, right? You come over here and sit with us. And I wouldn't put it past them at all, would you?
No.
That people are going to have to go into the gymnasium or wherever they have it, this caucus, and there's a corner of the room with a bunch of seats, and you sit there and they count you. And that they're going to have to deal with the MAGA people. And that's what everybody seems to be afraid of, including Nikki Haley and probably including Ron DeSantis, although he seems to be a bit more of a fighter. He's just such a sourpuss. That he doesn't do retail politics well at all.
No, he does not.
But you're gonna people are gonna have to show a little bravery in the Republican Party to even go to Iowa and sit in a section for somebody other than Trump. And I think I don't think that you can discount that as being a thing. That it's going to be important for people to say it's not talking to a pollster, it's not answering a survey, it's putting yourself on the line. Put yourself on the line. Get rid of this guy, and let's move on as a country. And hopefully more people will have the guts to do that. But something tells me that they won't.
Well, and that's one of the things. Great point about the caucuses, because as you say, you're sitting in a gymnasium and you're sitting in a certain area. You're supporting this candidate, and you're sitting with your neighbors. It's not like a voting booth where you can go in, you're in by yourself, you pull a lever, and nobody knows who you voted for. You just pull the lever, you're done. You go into this gymnasium with all the MAGA red hats and people screaming and yelling at each other and doing all that kind of stuff. That's a little harder. That's why caucuses are so, in my mind, so ridiculous, because you're doing it and there sits the guy you live next door to. And you're going to go over and say, "Oh, I think Trump sucks," even though he's got his Trump socks on and everything else. It's to me that's one of the major issues with caucuses, is that it does not allow someone the privacy to be able to vote their conscience. It's more of a group mentality kind of thing. Oh, I see a whole bunch of people sitting over there, and they're yelling at that group over there who's sitting in a different candidate's spot. Hey, come over here. You need to sit over here because we need. I just don't see that as a viable way to conduct any kind of an election.
It's horrible. How did we end up with these things? It's crazy.
Well, it's from gazillion years ago when the country was first founded, because that's kind of the way they did it. But it's the peer pressure way of selecting a candidate. And, it's like saying, okay, before you walk into the voting booth, you have to announce to everybody in the room who you're going to vote for. And then as you walk to that voting booth, they can be on aisles around you screaming at you what vile things or whatever they want, or you do this and you pull that lever and we're going to come after your family. And because let's face it, that's exactly what happens here. So yeah, I've never been a big fan of caucuses. Matter of fact, I can't stand them for that reason alone, in that it makes people they become lemmings. Now you've just got to kind of follow the crowd just so you don't have to listen to it.
Okay. I mean, this is a crazy system.
It is a crazy system. It is a crazy system. All right. So this is the first of our third season, and we're going to do a little bit of predictions here in our last 20 minutes. What do you see as the top 5 news items that'll be in 2024?
Well,
yeah.
All right. So at least 2 of them are going to have to do with Trump going to trial.
Right.
So I'll put 2 of them in there. I'll say a really massive one would be getting some kind of immigration reform done. I know that's not going well right now, but that would really be a huge thing, since we have a Cold War immigration system, and the Cold War has been over since the 1990s. So I'll say that's another. That'll include packages for Ukraine and Israel as well, right?
Okay.
It's not obviously just as simple as build a wall. There's a lot of stuff you need. And it would be a big story because it's happening during an election year, and it takes a major issue off the table. So if it happens, and again, it's not going well right now, but if it happens, that would be probably the biggest major story, even more so than Trump. I don't think Trump's going to prison or anything like that, but I do think that he's probably going to be on trial, and those trials are going to have a big effect on the country, of course. So what is that? 3, 4?
That's 4.
It would be great if we could follow through with my earlier prediction that some members of Congress are going to get arrested. I don't know why this hasn't happened yet. I don't know what the hell they're waiting for. Make me look like a genius, please, Merrick Garland.
Yes.
It seemed so obvious that it was going to happen, and it still hasn't happened. They may end up losing their majority anyway.
Yes.
Right? Because now I think a third Republican is retiring. So, Murphy is already gone.
McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy.
How quickly we forget the Speaker of the House's name.
Yeah. And you know what? He couldn't walk out the door quick enough, and I forgot his name as soon as he did. So he's gone. He's cleaned out his office, and he's gone.
Yep.
George Santos is gone. I think they had 4, right?
Buck of the 4th Congressional District is retiring.
Right, but
Colorado.
I don't know if he's out. I don't know if he's out.
No, he's
not out. Think there's somebody else who's not just not running, but they're quitting right now. And we'll have to look that up. And so, Gavin Newsom's not gonna replace McCarthy very quickly. There's not going to be a special election there, so that seat's going to be vacant for a while because Newsom is no fool, and Fresno would vote for a Republican, so he's going to keep that vacant for a while. And one maybe 2 Republicans losing their seat before the end of the year would trigger a new vote for Speaker and make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House for a couple of weeks or something, however long it goes. I don't know until these seats get filled again, and then and they can pass meaningful legislation at that point. How about that?
Okay, yeah,
a Democratic majority in the House before the end of the year, before the election.
Yes, because I don't think that prediction of doing immigration reform is going to happen as long as you have a Republican majority, because in many ways that gives Biden a win.
Right, but they're
not going to do that.
Let's be clear that in between the election in November and the end of the year, it's still 2024.
Right.
So, and it very well could happen the day after the election. Once the politics is gone,
right?
They could possibly do that. Anyway, how about you?
All right, my 4. My 5.
Can I have one more? Could I do?
Yeah,
one
you
more?
could. Yeah, of course you could have one more.
Because I've been thinking a lot about this one. I brought it up once before in an earlier podcast, and it was presented by Judd Gregg of Maine, I believe it is, or New Hampshire, I forget, who said that Joe Biden is a power guy. He understands the power of the presidency. He doesn't want to lose that power, so he's not giving up. He's not going to quit. He's not going to announce that he's not running. It's already too late for that anyway. But what he might actually do is anoint a successor, is basically appoint the next president. I don't know who it should be, but I had this thought the other day. That Joe Biden goes through the whole process, right? He's going to get, he's not running in New Hampshire. He's going to get South Carolina. He's going to get Super Tuesday. There's nobody running against him, that he's not going to be the Democratic nominee. And then at or before the convention, he's going to give all of his delegates to Governor Whitmer. And she's going to be the next president. And she'll get to pick her vice president. Somehow or another, he'll explain the disappointment to Kamala Harris, but it's not going to be her. And that Gretchen Whitmer will be the next Democratic nominee for president. How's that for a bold prediction?
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Of course, you've presented this idea before of turning over the electors. I don't know how that would work. As far as the process is concerned, but Whitmer, interesting. That's an interesting. The question is, would she keep Kamala Harris, and would Kamala Harris stay? That would be an interesting pair.
No, I don't. I think she would probably pick somebody who's got a little bit balance. It wouldn't be Kamala. It would be, I don't know, Southern governor or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Andy Bashir, maybe Kentucky.
Maybe they're good possible. Yes, excellent. Yeah, that's possible. That is a bold prediction. All right, let me see my 5. the conflict between Israel and Hamas will come to an end, and we will be back at the exact same spot we were when we started.
Netanyahu survive?
Netanyahu survives. He stays in power because for the lack of anybody better.
Sad thought that is.
So it is a sad thought, but it might be quite true to the point. So that's number one. Number two, Putin out as president of Russia.
Oh, now that's a bold prediction.
I'm saying that the war continues. The Ukrainians do get support. The financial issues to Russia become so egregious that Putin has to resign, and maybe we get a little bit of Putin light. We're not going to get somebody like the guy they found in the Gulag, who was the opposition leader, but we get somebody a little less Putinish, I guess is what I would say.
One of Putin's main guys was just found dead outside his open window from the third floor.
Yeah.
They said he had a heart attack and fell out the window.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is. So, I don't know.
This window falling out thing, it's just absolutely amazing how that just,
Well,
if you live in Russia, which we do have, which we do have people that listen to us from Russia, do not go next to a window because it's obviously not a very safe place to be.
Yeah, well, I think Putin's going to have to go by a window for this to happen. I don't think he's resigning.
I think that he retires. Let's just say.
Okay.
He retires to a very nice, comfortable life somewhere.
What do you think's more of a hot take? Me saying that Biden's going to retire, or you saying that Putin's going to retire?
I'm going to do Putin's going to retire. He's going to retire out because I think public opinion is going to go so far against him, especially if they continue to lose as they're losing. And all the support. I think he still
has 90% support in the polls. The surveys will say.
Yeah, what survey says?
Most popular, most popular Russian leader ever.
Ever, yeah, yeah. And Donald Trump is your most favorite president. Just ask him. So yeah, there's number two. Number three. This is going to be tough. The Republicans do not take back the House, but they do take the Senate in 2024.
Okay, that's kind of chalky.
Well, it's supposed to be chalky. It's a prediction. It's a prediction. It's supposed to be a little on the chalky. I just looked at
exactly a bold prediction.
Well, it's not a terribly bold, no, because the Senate is kind of up in the air. But I think that the Democrats will retake the House. And
put your, so we know we're losing West Virginia. The Democrats are losing West Virginia.
Right.
Who, if not both, go between Tester and the guy whose name I can never remember from Ohio, Sherrod Brown.
Sherrod Brown? I think both.
Both? Wow.
I think yes. I think both. Especially Ohio. But we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how there's just too many seats up for grabs, and I think it bodes very badly for the Democrats, because I don't think they can run the table. I'm positive they can. Of course, as you say, they're going to lose Manchin anyway. That puts them at 50-50. So yeah, I think that the
Democrats hold the seat in Arizona.
Yes,
that's an independent now, Sinema, right?
Right. Yep. I think Sinema's out, and I think the Democrats hold the seat in Arizona. So there's number three. Number four. Trump does get convicted before the election, and the appeals go to the Supreme Court, and the appeals to the Supreme Court do not get heard until after the election, and at which point it'll be completely up in the air. But to go along with that, at this point in time, if your prediction of Biden just saying I'm out, Biden beats Trump by 4 points.
Okay, that's a nice one.
I think he beats out Trump by 4 points. The last one, I think that the economy continues to grow. Interest rates start to come down, and that the mood of the American public as it relates to the economy becomes far better by June of 2024.
Then Biden should win by a lot more than 4.
Well, I give him. That's why I say he's going to win by 4. I mean, let's face it. In a presidential race, 4 is a lot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, 4 is still it's not like, some of the races down here in South Carolina where they win by 30 or 40. This is 4 is a lot, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, the interesting thing, I hadn't realized that Maine splits its electoral votes.
Yes.
So evidently Trump got one of those.
Yes.
From Maine. If he's not on the ballot, he loses one of those. Presumably he would win at least one electoral vote from Maine, and if he's not on the ballot, which he shouldn't be, in my opinion, he loses that. Colorado doesn't much matter, but I didn't realize Maine does, which I think was pretty cool.
Yeah, Maine's, I think, one of 2 states. What is it?
Yeah, I think it was Kansas. You might be right.
Yeah, Kansas is the other one that splits up its electoral votes. So those are my 5. As far, and again, I'll just do the extra one. The Supreme Court does not hear any of the Trump issues. They just allow the lower courts to make the decision and decide not to hear it. Especially the immunity one. They definitely don't want to get involved into that one. And as far as the states taking Trump off the ballot, I don't think that they hear that in a timely manner, because I think John Roberts understands, as you say, Roberts is a political animal, and he understands that the more he can stay away from these very controversial topics, the better off it is for the court.
Right. Well, he'll make it a 5-4, not a 6-3. Anyway, I think that's what he'll end up doing. But whatever. So
there you go. There are the predictions.
I'm going to say that one of those two, they do the immunity one, because I think it's easier. That they will take that one on, because that has to be decided by the Supreme Court.
Well, again, if the Supreme Court decides not to hear it, then it's the lower court's decision, which would be the D.C. court, appellate court, and the Supreme Court could say, "Yeah, they got it right. We don't want to hear it."
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's
the nice thing about the Supreme Court if you're on it, that you can. They don't have to hear something if they agree. I saw one other thing before talking quickly about the Supreme Court. John Roberts, there was a litigant that appeared for his 100th time as an attorney before the Supreme Court, and John Roberts marked the occasion by saying, you're only one of 4 people in the last century that have come before the court 100 times. He goes, I remember when I was in private practice, I actually was for the petitioner, and against you were for the plaintiff, and I was only 9 votes away from a unanimous decision. So I thought that was a great thing for Roberts to do. He acknowledged him, and he also acknowledged that back in private practice he got thumped in the Supreme Court by this same guy that he was calling out for his service to the Supreme Court. So I thought that was, especially what he said, and I was only 9 votes away from a unanimous decision. It was like, nice.
One of my basketball buddies appeared before the Supreme Court as a judge. Made an argument there.
Really?
I thought, they give you a certificate, and he's got it framed in his conference room. I saw it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yep, that is pretty cool. Well, that's that. So, what do you think, Michigan or Washington?
I think Michigan's really tough. So
I agree. I think Michigan is tough. Alabama, everybody down here, my friends that went to Alabama are all bumming out.
Oh well.
Not to mention, what Georgia did to.
Right, but to be fair, and I looked at that score and I was like, wow, what a message that is. But apparently nobody on Florida State played. They all entered the transfer portal to get the hell out of there and go to real schools.
Yeah, well, yeah. They got thumped pretty doggone good. I guess that DeSantis's edict that if they won that game, they would claim that they were the national championship. They were the national champions. I guess that's out now. I guess we don't have to worry about that.
That's what you need to call a white boot promise. DeSantis puts on his white boots and goes out there and says stupid things like that. Looks like a moron.
I wonder if his white boots also have risers in them.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
I'm sure. All right, Scott. Well, hey, first one of 2024. We'll be doing a whole bunch more.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and your family. Enjoy the snow that you're going to be getting in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I got to go prepare for that. Canned goods and all. I think it might be a dusting. I don't really think it's going to be that big a deal. But.
Well, if it was a dusting down here, every shelf would be empty of bread, eggs, and milk. Of which I always thought, what are you going to do? Make French toast if your power's out? I mean, what exactly are you going to do with all this stuff? But nice. So yeah. All right, man. You take care. We will talk to you again next week with another topic, and we'll see what we come up with.
All right, we'll see if our predictions come true. See you.
I'm going to write them down. Actually, I'm going to write them all down, and we're going to.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to.
I've already forgotten them, so.
All right, you take care.
Go Michigan. Go Gretchen Whitmer.
There you go. Take care.
Cheers.
So that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this week's episode. The Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. We'd also like to thank our podcast partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Podkite, who does all our analytics, iHeartRadio, where people get their music and podcasts, Apple iTunes, the largest source of music and podcasts on the internet, Spotify, the most popular source for the Nova Society. The Nova Society is available on all these and other quality platforms mentioned in our description. We'd like to thank our listeners. Without you, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a comment, a question, or would like to be a guest on the Nova Society, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. Always remember, the power of society is knowledge. So for Dr. Scott Gershworth, Dr. Priscilla Hobbs, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and all of us here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Be well, and we hope to see you again next time.